What's up, guys? Hope you guys had a good last weekend for the holiday and did something fun. So we're back this week and we are checking out a Soundstream 4-channel amplifier. This is the RN4.1400D. This amp is rated at 125 times 4 at 4 ohms, 175 times 4 at 2 ohms, and in 2-channel 4 ohm mode, 350 watts times 2. Now these are Korean made. I believe the reason why they're still made in Korea is Soundstream has been making these amps for a long time. So I'm sure them and that factory have had 15 or 20 years worth of business. So I think eventually these will be stopped being made in Korea to save money. But as of right now, they are still Korean made. And you guys know from watching my videos, these Soundstream 4 channels are some of the best bang for your buck quality and overall value I think you can get. So first off, you got nice blue anodized colors with the Soundstream logo. Nothing lights up except for the protect and the power light. And you do have all your controls on the top. Gain, high pass for the front channel, gain, high pass, low pass, and bass boost for the other set of channels. And everything is on the end on this amplifier. And it's nice to see that you have 4-gauge power inputs. You got two 30-amp fuses, so if we just do the quick math, that's 600 watts. So this should do 150 times 4, no problem. So that's a good sign. You got 12-gauge speaker outs. You got low-level RCA ends and high-level pigtail inputs. And they do give you the pigtails. And if you do use the pigtails with high-level inputs, you do not have to use a remote input wire. It will use the signal from the high inputs to turn on the amplifier when it senses sound coming from the high-level inputs. So you just have your front 2 channels, high pass and flat. Flat meaning it's just going to let everything through. Then you have your X1 and X10, which that's a multiplier. So if you have it set at 1, that's 1,000. If you have it set at X10, then that one is 10,000. Same thing on the rear channel. Pretty self-explanatory, but it's everything you need. The amp feels really heavy, which is a good sign. And as you can see here, these are still made in Korea. So really nice looking amps. You got some heatsink fins on the back. I know this amp's going to do well because I've done a lot of these Soundstream 4 channels and they just perform great. So these vary. You can get them for 120 to about 180 depending on where you buy them. I'll put a link in the description below with the cheapest price that I found. But I bought this for 125 on Amazon. And sometimes they're on eBay, but I'll put a link below. For 4 channels, man, these are awesome. Like I said, I haven't even dynoed it yet, and I'm sitting here raving about it because I know it's going to do great because I've done so many of these Soundstream 4 channels. And this is the Rubicon Nano series, and the Picasso Nano series actually is really good too. But let's go ahead and get this thing hooked up. I'll show you a gut shot at the end. I'm curious to see what's inside, but let's get started. Alright, so we got the amplifier hooked up. Let's go ahead and see what this thing puts out. Alright, so we're going to start with the certified test. Now this stops the readings at 1% THD. So some amplifiers rate their power dynamically. Some do it RMS. So you never kind of know what you're going to get, but let's go ahead and see what it puts out. Box has 125 times 4 at 4 ohm. Alright, so it didn't quite make it certified. We got 115 watts times 4 at 4 ohm certified up to 1% THD. So let's go ahead now and try uncertified next. Alright, so let's do uncertified up to clipping. See if it hits that 125 times 4. And right about the same. So it didn't do much more uncertified. So what that means is it's really clean power. Like its max power is going all the way up less than 1% THD, but didn't quite make it. So we got 115 times 4. Let's go ahead and try dynamic burst. All right, here we go, 4 ohm dynamic burst. Huh, that's interesting. So it's putting out virtually the same, certified, uncertified, and dynamic. It's almost like it's got like a limiter in there, not letting it do over about 115 at 4 ohm. Never had an amp do that before, being so consistent. It's not necessarily a bad thing like we saw in the certified test. That means it's just putting out completely clean power. Dynamic, uncertified, and certified. But it's almost like just hitting that 115 times 4. So let's go ahead and do the 2 ohm test and see what happens. Pretty interesting. Alright, certified 4-channel 2 ohm. Box says 175. Let's see what it does. Oh, so it did it at 2 ohm. So we got 184 times 4 at 2 ohm, and that's certified. So 2 ohm, it's doing better than the 4 ohm. Not that 115 times 4 is bad. All right, let's try uncertified. Well, the certified was very good, so let's see what happens here. Uncertified. And again, stopped right at 184. It's almost like this has a safety limiter inside, so it's not doing more than it can handle. But there you go, 184 watts as well, uncertified up to clipping. Let's go ahead and do dynamic. So far, this has been very interesting. You can tell me what you guys think, but this amp is putting out a certain amount of power, certified, uncertified, and dynamic, and it's not really going over. So that must be built in. I've never seen an amp do that before, but I know Korean amps, just like some of the sub amps too, they almost kind of have like a rev limiter in some of them that I've tried. Maybe that's a good thing to keep it from doing too much. But let's see dynamically if it does any more. But watch, if it does that 184 dynamic, then that's got to be what's going on. A little bit more, but a little bit more. So we got 195 times 4 at 2 ohm. So it did a little bit more on that one. Pretty interesting. So far this amp's doing good. It's not getting hot at all. Very good. Didn't quite do the numbers at 4 ohm. But let's go ahead and do this, do 4 ohm times 2 and bridge this thing and see what it puts out. Alright, so now we're in bridged mode. And it's only 4 ohm stable in 2-channel bridge mode. So let's see what happens. Box says 350 times 2. Man, it's right there. 323 watts, certified. So it's, man, like I said, it's acting like it's got like a rev limiter, which is good, protects your stuff. Very interesting though. All right, let's move on to uncertified. We're in bridged mode. So still, it's acting like that it has a limiter inside, but 336 times 2 at 4 ohm. Not bad. Let's try dynamic. All right, dynamic burst. Last test on this puppy. Can it do the 350 dynamically? Yep, and it did it. Woo! Creeping up into the 400, so 399 watts dynamic times 2 at 4 ohm. Not bad, not bad. Let's go ahead and get the back off this thing and check out what's inside. But first, let's go over the results. So it did 115 times 4, certified to 1% THD, 184 watts times 4, 2 ohm, and 323 watts times 2, uncertified, in 2-channel mode. And the efficiency was really good at, 78.3%. Even at bridged, it was 72, which is pretty good, because usually when you bridge amps, they go down in the 60s. So, not bad. Alright guys, and here are the insides of this amplifier. So this is kind of an interesting design, and this amp's been around for a while, so it's nothing new. But so they have the MOSFET transistors over here on this thick heatsink side. Then they have a whole nother thick aluminum clamp or brace, where you see some companies use those cheap little metal clips. They use a whole nother piece of aluminum. So essentially the MOSFET transistors have heatsink on both sides. So that's kind of cool. So over here we've got 2200 microfarad, 25 volt, 105 degrees Celsius SAMWA caps. And then over here we got 2200 microfarad, 50 volt, 85 degree caps. So that 85 degrees, I'm not sure I haven't really seen too many caps 85 degree, but I will say that this amp is probably the coolest amp I've dynoed, and stayed the coolest on the dyno. So maybe they're just not pushing it so hard where it builds heat, so they don't need the 105 degree caps right there. But whatever they're doing, it works. So you got your whole input section over here. It's kind of like enclosed in its own box. And then you got your toroidal 4-channel power supplies, and then your one main toroidal power supply. Nice and clean. Nice, clean, and tidy. So again, these are really well made. I know at some point I think Soundstream's going to cut cost, have these made in China. Because I can't believe for the price, for 120, 150 bucks, these are Korean. And even at the power it put out, for 120 bucks for 115 times 4-channel is a really good deal. So I like it. I'm happy with it, even though a couple of the numbers were a little under. So it did really well, and the quality on this thing's awesome. I really think that dual kind of heatsink is a pretty cool idea. Alright guys, so that's it for this one. Final thoughts. I did look, these are 150 bucks right now, but if you look, you can get them down to 120. Build quality is excellent. Super clean power. It made constant power no matter if it was uncertified, certified, so that means it's putting out its max power and it's clean, less than 1% THD. So that's a good thing. The efficiency was creeping up into the 80s, so it had very good efficiency. Even in bridged mode, it was over 70%, which usually bridged amps fall down into the 60s. So the efficiency was very good. I'm not sure where they got the 95% efficiency on there, but we know how that goes. But you know, for 150 bucks, 120 bucks if you can find it, it's a great amp. It's Korean, the build quality's good, puts out super clean power, stayed super cool. This is the only amp that I've dynoed, because off camera I have to do a few dyno runs to set the gains and everything. This amp didn't even get warm. So that might have to do with the design inside and that double heat sink on the MOSFETs or whatnot, but I heard these were super reliable amps. So in my opinion, you can't beat it if you're looking for a 4-channel. I mean, what other Korean 4-channel can you get for 150, 120 bucks that does 115 times 4 and 350 times 2 bridged? So very cool. Let me know what you guys think. If you could like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. It'd help me out a lot, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you got any suggestions, as always, just let me know. And I will catch you on the next one. You guys have a good one.